What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the stimulus package update, the $3.5 trillion stimulus package, money, investing, the stock market, the debt limit ceiling, which needs to be raised by October 18th, or the country could see the first ever default of the United States Treasury, where they won't have money to pay the bills of the U.S. government. That's correct. We got a lot going on. As you can see here directly from the Wall Street Journal, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says that the Treasury could exhaust the cash reserves by October 18th, which is now 14 days away, if the debt limit ceiling isn't raised. And this is major news because this would be the first time ever that the government would have a default, which is basically running out of cash. The government can't issue any new money until they raise the debt limit ceiling, which Congress needs to pass. And as of right now, there's a standoff between the Republicans and the Democrats. In fact, President Biden actually just spoke on this. Yeah, check out what he has to say here. Here we go. Also, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below if you find these videos helpful.
What we need today to raise the debt limit. And why the Republicans in Congress what they're doing today is so reckless and dangerous, in my view. Raising the debt limit comes down to paying what we already owe, what has already been acquired, not anything new. It starts with a simple truth. The United States is a nation that pays its bills and always has. From its inception, we have never defaulted. What we pay for, so it keeps us a great nation. Social Security benefits for seniors, salaries for brave service members, and benefits for veterans, and other financial obligations for our people and for our nation. We're able to meet these obligations based on the revenue we receive from taxes and based on our ability to borrow when needed. And in that case, we're able to borrow because we always pay our debt. We always paid what we owe. We've never failed. That's America. That's who we are. That's what's called for. It's called full faith and credit of the United States. It's rock solid. It's the best in the world. But here's the deal. There's a cap on what we can borrow called the debt limit. And only Congress can raise or lower that debt limit. So let me be really clear. This is really important to know. Raising the debt limit is about paying off our old debts. It has nothing to do with any new spending being considered. It has nothing to do with my plan for infrastructure or building back better. Zero. Both of which, I might add, are paid for. So if we're going to make good on what's already been approved by previous Congresses and previous presidents and parties, we have to pay for it. Social Security benefits, American people are promised, salaries for servicemen and women, benefits for veterans. We're going to have to raise the debt limit if we're going to meet those obligations. And raising the debt limit is usually a bipartisan undertaking, and it should be. That's what is not happening today. The reason we have to raise the debt limit is in part because of the reckless tax and spending policies under the previous Trump administration. In 4 years, they incurred nearly $8 trillion. In 4 years, $8 trillion in additional debt. In bills we have to now pay off. That's more than a quarter of the entire debt incurred now outstanding after more than 200 years. And Republicans in Congress raised the debt 3 times when Donald Trump was president, and each time with Democrat support. But now they won't raise it, even though they're responsible for more than $8 trillion in bills incurred in 4 years under the previous administration. That's what we'd be paying off. They won't raise it, even though defaulting on the debt would lead to a self-inflicted wound that takes our economy over a cliff and risks jobs and retirement savings, Social Security benefits, salaries for service members, benefits for veterans, and so much more. A failure to raise the debt limit will call into question Congress's willingness to meet our obligations that we've already incurred. Not new ones, we've already incurred. This is going to undermine the safety of U.S. Treasury securities, and it will threaten the reserve status of the dollar as the world's currency that the world relies on.
Wow. So President Biden there, he even says that Social Security payments could be at risk, payments to servicemen, the military, and these are all the things we've been discussing here on the channel. I've been showing you multiple articles from credible news sources, from Senator Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and now the president has come out and said all these things. So this shows you how dire this situation is. He mentioned Social Security payments to servicemen multiple times there, literally just in that like 3 minutes or so of his speech. So this is a very, very dire consequence thing. So if they can't come to an agreement at this point, um, the full faith and credit of the United States is in trouble. So this is a very, very real situation here. And on October 18th, that is the estimated date. It could come before then. It could come after then. That literally the U.S. Treasury will run out of money. They will run out of money. Right now, they are using a reserve account that had $450 billion in there. And that's why I show you these places, like literally right here from the Wall Street Journal. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the Treasury could exhaust its cash reserves by October 18th if the debt limit isn't raised. So they're going to need to do this before October 18th, which is 14 days away. And this really doesn't mean they can do it by the 13th, or I'm sorry, by the 17th. They can't wait until the last day. So Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says that Congress needs to raise the debt ceiling by the end of this week. So here they're going to try to do it this week. And really every day that goes by, everything gets more and more jittery, more and more shaky. And they really need to get this done as soon as possible. The Dow Jones Industrial was down 365 points as of time of recording today. As you can see here, stocks sink as of data-heavy week, and NASDAQ drops as treasuries rise. As this is really starting to make markets jittery and everybody jittery. As the closer we get to this date, everybody is a little bit uneasy. People waiting on their Social Security payments. I mean, they're still going through now, but everybody is a little bit worried. And Senate Minority Leader of the Republicans, Mitch McConnell, as you can see from this headline here from The Hill, respectfully tells President Biden it's time for the Democrats to raise the debt limit ceiling. Now, remember that the Democrats just tried to do this at the end of last week 2 different times, and the Republicans blocked the Democrats' vote. All the Democrats in the Senate voted to raise the debt limit ceiling, and all the Republicans voted no to raise the debt limit ceiling. Here's what Mitch McConnell has to say. Senate GOP leader, GOP stands for Grand Old Party, which is an old name for the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell is urging President Biden to lean on Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, leader of the Democrat Party and leader of the Senate, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to get Democrats to raise the debt limit ceiling on their own. Mitch McConnell says, I respectfully submit that it is time for you to engage directly with congressional Democrats on this matter in a letter to President Biden. He says, quote, your lieutenants in Congress must understand that you do not want your unified Democratic government to sleepwalk towards an avoidable catastrophe when they have had nearly 3 months' notice to do their job. Wow. Republicans' position is simple. We have no list of demands. For 2.5 months, we have simply warned that since your party wishes to govern alone, it must handle the debt limit alone as well. McConnell's letter to Biden comes shortly before the president gave the speech to raise the debt limit ceiling, which I just showed you the first part of. It's a long speech. It's like 20 minutes. I showed you the first couple minutes of it. Congress has until October 18th, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, to act or risk a historic default. Schumer, in a separate letter to Democrats on Monday, said Congress needs to act to raise the debt limit ceiling by the end of the week, but gave no details on a path forward. Republicans have twice blocked Democrats from raising the debt limit ceiling. Once to suspend the debt ceiling as part of a short term government funding bill, and a second time when Schumer tried to bypass the 60 vote filibuster to set up a standalone bill to suspend the debt limit ceiling. The Republicans want to force the Democrats to do it through one specific way, which is through the reconciliation process, which is through the stimulus package. At this point, I don't know if they're going to be able to pass that here before the debt limit ceiling in the next few days, as well, we have Joe Manchin and the Democrats disagreeing, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. That's what Republican Senator Mitch McConnell is kind of demanding of the Democrats to raise the debt limit ceiling. Normally, the debt limit ceiling is raised by Republicans and Democrats every 1 to 2 years. They just vote on it and do it. But Republicans are refusing to do it to kind of inflict political pain on the Democrats because the Democrats are in control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. You heard President Biden say that former President Donald Trump added $8 trillion to the national deficit, which is the most of any president ever. And he did that in just $8 trillion in just 4 years. I have this article here back from December 31st of 2020. So they need to raise the debt limit just to pay the past debt. As President Biden mentioned, $8 trillion is more than 25% of the entire debt of the country incurred in 200 years. Our current debt of the entire country is $28.5 trillion. So $8 trillion is more than 25% of the entire debt that we have incurred in over 200 years. If you multiply 8 times 4, that would be 32 trillion. Our debt is only $28.5 trillion. So former President Trump added more than 25% of the country's entire debt, national debt, in just 4 years, just so we're all on the same page here. On the stimulus package, this is going to be a very crucial week now that President Biden had to step in between the Democrats, which are fighting amongst themselves. Not only the Democrats fighting amongst the Republicans, but Democrats are fighting amongst themselves just to come to an agreement between the stimulus package and the infrastructure package. Remember, last week they were deciding whether they were going to pass the physical infrastructure package, the $1.2 trillion package on roads, bridges, clean drinking water, airports, all sorts of highways, stuff like that. But now they're not going to do that. People like Senator Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Pramila Jayapal, the progressive Democrats, kind of won their way there and said, we don't want to pass that in the House because if they do, then that bill would be gone. And because that bill has already passed the Senate. If they pass that bill in the House, it's gone, and they will no longer have that bill as the bills will no longer be linked. So right now, the physical infrastructure package and the stimulus package, $3.5 trillion, which is really probably going to end up in the $2 trillion range now, whether it's going to be $2 trillion even or $2.9 trillion or somewhere in the middle there. These two bills, the fates of them are linked, and the progressive caucus from the Democrats really kind of made sure that would happen, and they're going to be voted on together. But together really means that the stimulus package is probably going to be voted on first, okay? Because if they vote on the physical infrastructure package first, that bill's gone and it's done. Remember, they can't actually vote on two bills at the exact same moment. one bill has to be voted on first, and then the other bill has to be voted on next. It's not like, they can happen at the very same second. One bill has to be voted on first, and it's very likely that the stimulus package is going to be voted on first, and then the physical infrastructure package will be voted on next. So this week is going to probably be compromise week, where we're going to be finding out from Senator Joe Manchin and an agreement between the progressive Democrats what they can come to and what the bill size will be. So it's going to be a very important week here. They're going to be meeting with President Biden this week, and they're saying that there could actually be a meeting between all of them in the same room: Senator Joe Manchin, Bernie Sanders, the president, and the Pramila Jayapal. Um, Joe Manchin has not been meeting with any of them in person. It'll be interesting to see how that meeting goes. Imagine having Senator Joe Manchin in the room with actually the rest of the Democrats, and he's been getting blasted by his own Democratic Party because it seems like he has his own self-interest more at heart than the rest of his party or even the rest of America, because it just seems like he doesn't want to raise the corporate tax rate as much as the rest of his party. He doesn't really have his interests aligned with the rest of his party. He seems like he has um, more of his corporate donors' interests, dare I say, than what seems like the rest of America's interest or his own party's interest. Seems like he has very, very different views than the rest of his party's views. And a lot of his own party, his Democratic Party, have been really kind of speaking out against him on this. So if they have a meeting this week in person with him and the president and the rest of his party, it'd be very interesting to see how that goes, because they do need his vote. So they can't really just blast him in person too much, because they need him to say yes ultimately. So they're going to have a crafty way of negotiating with him, because they can't just really piss him off too much, because if he says no, well, then they can't pass the bill. But Senator Joe Manchin really wants to pass that physical infrastructure bill. He really wants that bill for some apparent reason. So he knows he's going to need to pass the stimulus package to get the physical infrastructure package passed as well. So it's going to be a very give and take week for Senator Joe Manchin as well as the Democrats. Senator Bernie Sanders as well as Pramila Jayapal have not been wanting to come down too much from the $3.5 trillion price tag, but they had to exclude the immigration policies, or at least at this point, because the Senate parliamentarian ruled that they can't be included in the um, reconciliation process. So the parliamentarian ruled that immigration reform can't be included through the reconciliation process. It doesn't affect the budget, even though the Democrats tried to show ways it would affect the budget. I mean, they were going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars with a B, but nonetheless, the parliamentarian ruled no, it really shouldn't be part of the reconciliation process. Of course, a lot of Democrats were unhappy about that, and the parliamentarian ruled no, it can't be included. Now, the Democrats could still try to include that. Remember, they can just simply overrule the parliamentarian with a simple majority vote in the Senate with 50 votes, 50 to 51 votes. But it's very unlikely that Joe Manchin would go against the parliamentarian and maybe even a couple other moderate Democratic senators. So probably whatever the parliamentarian rules will end up being the way that it is, unless it's something that is very something like Senator Joe Manchin wants. So at this point, immigration will probably be taken out. That alone was a couple $100 billion, $200-300 billion. That alone is going to lower the price tag for the Democrats. Remember, they're going to have to lower the price tag anyways, just to make Senator Joe Manchin happy. He says he wants to spend top line of $1.5 trillion. So we'll be seeing how much he's willing to compromise at this point. Will he be willing to come to 2 trillion? Will he be willing to come to 2.5 trillion? Uh, we'll see how high he's willing to go. But remember, he did do this exact same stuff with the third stimulus check package, and they got that deal done at $1.9 trillion, which was a pretty good deal. That did have $1,400 stimulus checks in there, which were the largest stimulus checks yet to date. And they had $1,400 stimulus checks for children, which the highest stimulus checks for children before that were only $600. It also included the child tax credits, which were $3,000 to $3,600 checks. Those monthly checks of $250 to $300 per month. Those checks are going to stop at the end of this year. Okay, so if they can't pass this package by December 31st, which is only a few months away at this point, those monthly checks are going to stop. Okay, so and all that was in the $1.9 trillion. They also had over $40 billion of rental assistance, mortgage assistance, all sorts of stuff like that. I actually did a really good video on how you can get rent assistance. You can actually get your rent paid for up to 12 months. We had a viewer get over $13,000 of rent paid for them. We've had actually thousands of viewers get rent assistance. You can get 3 months, 6 months, 12 months of rent assistance, 5,000, 10,000, over $15,000 of rent assistance. It really just depends on your state and your qualifications, and I'll show you directly how to do that. I'll link you to a video on how to do that. It's completely for free, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Subscribing is completely free as well. Don't miss any videos at this point. There's going to be a lot of new information coming out on the next stimulus package, and I'll also keep you up to date with what's going on in our country. So yeah, new videos come out at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click this video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is how you can apply to get rent assistance. You can get up to 12 months of your rent paid. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.